This time on Holy Ghost Notes.
Yeah, I'm tired of playing whitewash.
It's never been talked about in recorded fashion.
We're just judgmental little pricks.
No way, man. We're Christians.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Hey, this is Tim and Matt, and you are listening to the Holy Ghost Notes podcast. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on, dude? Why did it take us so long to figure out that we should be using Zoom to do this so we can actually see each other?
I don't know.
This is nice.
Back in the day, like when we started, it was Skype, right? And
Yeah.
Skype was just horrible, super laggy. But now Zoom has upgraded all their platform abilities,
Yeah.
which is great.
Well, I didn't know that Skype was laggy until I was teaching. I think we were talking about this. I was teaching a student last week, like one of my younger students, and he's like, "Dude, why are you still using Skype?" And I'm like, "Is there something else?" When I started teaching, that was the only video platform you could use. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, it's called Zoom." I'm like, "Oh, okay. How do you spell that?" So it is definitely superior. It's a really cool. It's just an easy to use, setup interface. I'm actually going to be doing an educational website here pretty soon where I'm going to allow the subscribers the option, if they want to, just to get on Zoom like once a week or once every other week, and we just sit here and have a drummer conversation, and
That's
it
awesome.
allows you, from what I understand, to have quite a few people on at the same time.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. We're definitely going to have to shout that out and give some information on how to sign up for that once you're all set up. When is that going live? Do you know?
It'll be pretty straightforward. It's just going to be mattgrinderlessons.com, and then I'm going to keep it cheap, like $10 a month. I think it'll probably go live May 15th.
Nice.
So by the time you're listening to this, it'll be another 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I have a friend coming in on May 1st and 2nd, shooting video and doing a couple songs. Basically, for years, I was like, what do I have to teach that someone else can't? Like, we talk about Mike's lessons all the time. We talk about Drumeo, and there's just all these awesome resources out there. And you see Mike's setup, it's like he's got like the full-blown camera on the track rail that's moving.
He's pretty legit.
He's very legit. I mean, Adobe just hired him. So
really?
it's
Okay.
like, like,
That's
what do
wild.
I have to do in that arena? And then a student from Canada actually recommended, why don't you just teach your songs? Break down your songs. Do like 75% of the speed, 88% of the speed, and full speed. Really good camera angles, really good audio. Like, yeah, that's what I should do, because that's the only thing I know how to do well. And he kind of laughed. He's like, yeah, exactly. You should do that. So that's what it is. So if you like ABR and you want to learn how to play the drums to Composure, Whitewashed, Empire, I'm starting off with 3 new songs just because they're fresh and I like playing them.
Nice.
So I'm starting with Bones, Defender, and Paramount.
Cool.
But yeah, like every other week I'll have a new video up and a breakdown, and you can play along. There's a click track there. It's just gonna be really easy. No talking, by the way.
Okay. Wow. That's cool.
0 talking. Like, you're gonna sit down at your kit, you'll be like, I want to get better at drums, right? I don't want to watch somebody talk for like 20 minutes before I start to get better at drums. And so you're going to click on the video. It's just going to be 4 clicks and you're going to start playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool,
hopefully,
man.
I mean, it's something I've wanted to do for a while, and hopefully people want to learn the songs,
Yeah.
I think it would be beneficial to you as a drummer if you're looking to get better, because you and I both know the way we've gotten better a lot of times is just by trying to play stuff we can't play, and eventually you're able to play it.
Yeah. Well, I might sign up because I can't play metal, so
You're getting the free discount code, my friend.
all right. Cool.
Well,
I get to pay 15 instead of 10.
It's marked up for you. Yeah. Hey, web developer, don't let this guy on for regular price. You got to bump it up.
His discount code actually makes it cost more. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's funny. So you've been busy building out a studio and getting all your your drums mic'd up, and you've been busy. You've been keeping busy during this quarantine. I guess it's a good time to get all that built and banged out, right?
Yeah. It's never been busier. It feels. I don't know if you're in that boat too. I've talked to a couple people that are just like, man, I just have so much free time. I don't know what to do with my time. And for me, it's exactly the opposite. You flip it around. I enjoy being busy, so it's nice. Yeah. But everything's going virtual.
Yeah. I think it's definitely been busier for me, but more productive at the same time. It's odd how when you can't really do anything, like you can't get out to stores really unless you absolutely have to.
Right.
You can't see people, so there's no real social obligations. Short of like Zoom stuff, like virtual games or whatever with your friends. There's really no social obligation. And my only problem is that I work too much. My wife and I both have that problem where if we're home and we can get stuff done, we probably will. And so we've just been busy because we won't stop ourselves from working.
Right.
And I mean, she's teaching and she's in grad school. So she's doing the virtual learning thing on both sides as a student and as a teacher, which is crazy. And then we also have my 3-year-old home most of the time. So
there you go.
So that's it in itself right there. It's just busier because of that. But it's been an interesting time and something that I'll never forget and probably something that we'll never experience again. So part of me, as much as I want it to be over, I'm also like, at what point in life am I going to wish that we were quarantined again? Remember that quarantine? That was awesome. I just wonder if, the grass is always greener.
We were stuck inside and couldn't do anything. I don't know. I think you're going to have a lot of people who are just like, get me out of my house right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There are certain days I'm like I'm just going stir crazy and I need to go and do something, see somebody, or at least get outside and get some fresh air. The rainy days are definitely the hardest for me.
Yeah, they're tough. I've been saying this. I think everybody should be writing down at least something once or a couple times a week about this. Because if you've ever been with your grandma or your aunt and you've talked to them for long enough, they've probably been like, hey, I think I wrote about that somewhere. And they'll bring out a little notebook and they'll show you what they wrote. And this is the kind of thing you write about. And if you don't, you miss all the details. Even in the middle of it, it feels like, dude, we can never forget this. Like, we'll never forget this, right? But you and I both know you fast forward a couple years and what happened? I forget what month that was. What did we do? How long was it? So it is a good idea just to have a pen and a little journal on your nightstand and just write a couple, pages down a couple times a week. And that way you have something to look back on. It is certainly bringing out the crazies, and it is certainly bringing out your personality type. If you're an introvert, this is like heaven and paradise all in the same time. And if you're an extrovert and you live alone or you're secluded from other people, this is a nightmare because Zoom just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, right. Yep. That's true. That's I couldn't have said it better myself. And I didn't even put that together until just now that like this is definitely the type of scenario that will be written in the history books, and that, some person who's not yet famous but will be famous for writing a book about the quarantines.
100%.
It's like, this is absolutely 100% something that would be a best-selling book, 20, 50, 100 years down the road from now,
Stop doing this podcast right now and start writing your book.
Yeah, write a diary, hide it in a wall somewhere so someone can find it 100 years down the road. And you'll be a legend. It'll be a legacy.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm feeling the most for people in the med field. Ben Shapiro said this a couple times, but everyone in the med field should win a Congressional Medal of Honor when this is over.
Agree.
They should all be handed one, and then probably a couple more, because my brother's an NP, my sister's an RN, and I was talking to my sister-in-law, I'm sorry, is an RN. Her husband, my brother, is an NP, nurse practitioner. And I think it has hit them differently at different times, but now they're on the same page. In that my brother on Friday, which if you're listening to this, it would have been a week and a half ago, so things have progressed. But he witnessed 6 people go from walking around. Yeah, they were somewhat symptomatic. They were confirmed COVID cases, but they were fine. Talking to family, everything's okay. To 2 days later, Friday, passed away. 6 of them, same day. And my brother's working in a contained, restricted fashion, not moving around to different homes, obviously at this point, because he's in contact with it. And so he's been with these people for a prolonged period of time, and it really impacted. I've talked to him that night, and he's just like, man, I don't think I could be the same after seeing what I saw today. And then last night, talking to his wife, my sister-in-law, she's just like, I don't usually journal, but I wrote some stuff down, and she sent it to me, and it was like, dude, this is really well written, and it's pointed at people like myself who have just been so critical and judgmental of people, when we need to be more fair and give more grace, because there's this idea that we shouldn't live in fear, right? Like, don't live in fear, right? Don't be fearful. And her point, I think, of her writing was, I'm not fearful. I'm not afraid. I'm with these people as they're dying and their family can't talk to them. This is real. Yeah. And when I read that, I'm like, wait, why is that so hard for us, especially as Christians, to understand? It's not a matter of fear. It's not a matter of, I'm afraid. Oh, okay, I just need to not be afraid. No. This is a real evil, a real virus that is killing people, and maybe worst of all, their family can't see them to say goodbye. Like, there's no fear component in that scenario. It's just really sad. And so to compound and to add insult to injury is this idea that we're judging people, saying, oh, they're just living in fear. Oh, they just need to not be so afraid of this. This will pass. It's like, yeah, it will, but there's a part of Christianity I think we've missed out on a lot. I'm going off on this. It's the more liturgical. It's the more liturgical side, which says it's okay to not be okay. And the way that I was raised, and the way a lot of my friends are, we don't know how to factor that into how we live our lives. If something's not okay, you need to figure out how to get past it quickly and to be okay again. And I feel like we haven't been given those resources to be able to handle the times that it's okay to be in a time of grief and difficulty. And this is definitely one of those times. We don't have to pray for God to send his angels to rescue us from this immediately, yesterday, right now. It's like, well, hold on a second. What's God showing me in this? And that's something that I've really been learning, thinking about, just as a result of 2 of my siblings being in the med field. Yeah.
I think the other thing too that I've seen an abundance of is that, like, at least for us, like growing up in the United States, we take a lot of things for granted. We live in a country or a world where, at least when we were growing up, we are under the illusion that everyone knows what's going on, and there's always a solution, and there's always, things will always resolve, and things will always end up okay. That's always the situation for a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us. It's like, well, it's not going to get that bad. It'll get bad. There are times, 9/11 obviously was rough for just about everybody in this country. There's times that get really bad, but there's still resolve. There's still
true.
And so we're in this time, and we've been in it for now, a few months, and it's hard for us to grasp the fact that most everyone doesn't actually know what's going on or how to stop this
100%.
Thing. We're just trying. We're just shooting in the dark, like maybe this will work, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. Yeah. No, that didn't work. Let's try this, and it's strange for a lot of people, and it's hard for a lot of people to accept that, like, this is not written in a book somewhere. This isn't, we don't have a code. We don't have a process for this. It's brand new. We're all experiencing it for the first time together. Granted, we were much more prepared than we could have been. Yeah. We were also underprepared in a lot of ways, but it's hard to accept, like, that. Okay, the high up people, don't know how to stop this thing or how to handle it, and it's scary, Yeah. But we do have to remember, like, it's not about being scared. It's, we're not staying in our homes because we're scared to go outside. We're scared for our lives. We're just being precautious. We're following the steps. Like, it's not a sin to
right.
to treat this like it's a real issue. It's not being afraid to treat it like it's a threat.
That's exactly right. That's 100% true. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone's sick and tired of hearing about COVID. So we should probably start talking. Start talking about it too. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
But it's something important to talk about. We need to be talking about it, and especially as Christians, it's important to figure out, like, how do we deal with this thing? And so, if you're listening to this and you have a different take than us, we'd love to hear it, honestly, because there's a lot of different angles on this. It's creating a lot of division inside homes. It's creating a lot of tension inside homes between spouses, between family members, between friends. And the goal here is that I think we help each other out, not that we tamp each other down. So if you have a different take than us, let's hear it. Hopefully it's more well-informed than ours is. So, okay. So today we have a special guest, which we're all really excited about. We know you guys already know who it is, but before we get to that, we had a really kind of light bulb moment this last week. And actually it was all you, Tim. Tim called me after we got off the phone. We just did a minisode we just recorded something with Adam.
Yeah, it's actually released today. Well, not today when you guys are listening to this, but today when we're recording it.
Yeah, you missed it. So if you didn't hear it, go back and listen to it. But we've recorded Adam so many times, I'm forgetting which time he was on. So Tim called me and he's like, dude, we should offer drum lessons through Adam. All Adam has to do is create the content and we'll host it. We'll do all the legwork. He just does the fun part, the easy part for him, which is just playing drums and being Adam. Which, as it turns out, is incredible. Anybody that knows Adam loves Adam, and anybody that doesn't know Adam but has seen him knows they want more Adam in their life. Like, you send anyone a video of this guy and they're just like, oh my gosh, I want to know that guy. So you can finally get lessons with him, and this is a long time coming. We've been talking about this for so long, but Tim, it was such a good idea because you're taking care of the one factor that he just can't wrap his head around, which is tough. I mean, it's overwhelming. Techie, uploading video, editing, making sure it's hosted right, making sure it's accessible. How do you do all that? Well, now he doesn't have to worry about it. We're going to do it for him. So as a listener to this, if you're not signed up to be one of our supporters through Patreon, you can do so. And now you have the option of getting drum lessons from Adam. There are probably many who will never listen to the podcast and just sign up for the drum lessons, which is great. This is going to become an interface for a lot of people who just want to learn how Adam plays drums. That's a win. There are also those who probably have never played drums who are going to be like, all right, I'll bump up to the $25 and $50 tiers and try to play like Adam. And our goal is to cater these lessons to you too. It's not just for the advanced player. Adam is advanced. It's also for the beginners and intermediates. Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be good. I mean, in my mind, I was just thinking, like, it's like a crime for this guy not to be playing drums.
Yeah.
Like, he is just too good. And he really he sent me a couple of his lesson examples this week, and they're just awesome. You guys are really going to get a lot out of it. Like Matt said, it's going to be beginner, intermediate, advanced. You're going to be learning rudiments, stick techniques, fun grooves, what have you. I mean, he's going to teach it all. He has fun with this stuff. So it's going to be great, and it is going to be available exclusively through our Patreon. So patreon.com/Holy Ghost Notes. It'll be available to the triplet and Ghost Note tiers, which are the $25 and $50 a month tiers. So that will give you access to everything that our Patreon normally would give you access to, in addition to these drum lessons that are coming out weekly.
Yeah.
Or will be coming out weekly, hopefully by the time this is live.
Weekly drum lessons, that's right. Yep. Weekly drum lessons. The way we're going to structure them is you're going to have a beginner one, an an intermediate one, an advanced one, week 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th week will be the impossible.
Impossible.
And ultimately, the goal here is just to really get Adam more, just get more eyes on Adam. We're going to be paying him for these videos, and so it works out really well for everyone. So just know that if you're paying us for those upper tiers, a percentage, at this point, a large percentage of the money is going straight to Adam. So if you get a thank you message from Adam, it's probably because Adam wrote you a thank you message and was like, dude, thank you. You just helped me pay my rent.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, to be completely transparent, Matt and I have not cashed any paychecks from this thing yet. This is all going back into the podcast. It's all growing. It's all to grow this thing and to benefit all of you. So, little by little, we're kind of knocking off or checking off pieces of the list that we've put together in our minds that are now possible because we do have some financial backing. But Adam's going to be, I think, a big part of this growth, and we're excited to have him on. So.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, we have a very special guest. He is a very good friend of mine and the singer in my band, Mr. William Jacob Luhrs. Yes.
It was a great conversation. It was really good getting to know him. I feel like you really got to kind of see a snapshot of his heart, and you're probably not going to find a conversation like this with him out there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I have yet to see anything like this.
I haven't. I've had conversations with him like this, so it doesn't feel abnormal because we've been in a band for so long. We've had these one-on-one heart-to-hearts, but it was unique to have him on our show and being as transparent as he was, and just as helpful as he was. I think that as a listener, if you're anything like me, if you're anything like Tim, you're going to benefit from this. And just hearing so many different out-of-the-box insights. I mean, listen, I've gotten so much from this guy over the last 15 years, and I came to expect this kind of podcast episode from him. Yeah. It's not like out of the ordinary. It's Jake in my mind. But you're right. If you're someone who doesn't know that side of Jake, then this is a new angle. And he's a great dude. He has a precious heart. He loves God, and he really, really loves people. And you'll be able to see that clearly in this episode. Yeah.
Well, you could listen to us talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, you guys need to hear it for yourselves. So without further ado, here is Jake Luhrs.
Hey, what's going on? This is Matt and Tim, and we have a very exciting guest. He has been someone I've known a little while. Jacob Luhrs, how you doing?
Good, man. I'm doing great. How are you, Matt? I miss you, bud.
I'm doing good. I'm about 3 miles away from you right now, and if we were on tour, I'd be about 3 feet away from you. So it feels far right now. This feels far.
Yeah. You guys were supposed to be on tour right now, right?
Yeah.
Still we're going to be on tour. How's quarantine life treating everybody?
Honestly, to be honest with you, I've been pretty busy. I mean, it feels like, in the past, because we've been touring so often, it's like I come home, I pay my bills, and then I leave again. So with this whole quarantine thing, I mean, I pressure washed my house, I mulched my yard, I'm cleaning my house 3 times a day, and I'm staying very active with content. I'm starting these first reaction videos on YouTube for, just all these other bands and, peers of ours. So it's a cool way to promote my friends and then just kind of give something for our fans to check out and, breathe conversation, joy, and some excitement, considering a lot of people are, stir crazy or struggling with, anxiety and fears and doubts and things. So it's a good way to stay busy, and thankfully I packed my garage full of workout equipment, so I get to go to the gym every day. So that's a good thing.
There you go.
Yeah, I love your videos, from your workout videos to your vocal reaction, band reaction videos. So for those that are listening to this and don't know this, Jake is the vocalist of August Burns Red and joined the band in 2006. So I've known Jake for 14 years. Funny enough, last week I called you, Jake, and I'm like, dude, why didn't I encourage you to do like video reactions 5 years ago when I first found out that they were a thing? Because you're so good at them. Like, I want to watch everything that you react to. It could be the dumbest content, but just the way that you respond to it, your vocal cues and your facial expressions. And there's Winston hanging out with you. It's just like, this was a no-brainer for you to do. Is that fun for you to do? Is it something you're enjoying?
It is. Yeah. I never thought I would do something like that. I never really knew about first reaction videos until just recently. And, I just gave it a shot and people really liked them. And then I just started to realize, like, man, this is fun. Like, I get to listen to my peers, their music, and talk about it and share my view, my perspective, and maybe, things I would have done or things that I really think they pulled off really well. And obviously I'm very, very stuck on, the vocals and the drumming for the most part, but I can sense good good songwriting when I hear it. So it's fun, man. It's good for me, and it breeds community in my life, where I post a video and then I interact with the subscribers or listeners, and so it's definitely a positive thing in my life where I can dedicate time, and I'm learning about editing, and that's like I was saying earlier, man, that's just, wow. That's just something else. I salute editors, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for being on our show today. We've been talking about doing this for, I don't know, has it been a year, Tim? I mean, we started the podcast a year ago, so it can't be more than a year, but it's pretty much back to the beginning. We're like, we got to get Jake on. And Tim, you're like, well, you're on tour with them, so it shouldn't be that hard. And,
sure enough.
And now, of course, we're doing the episode once we're home because of COVID-19. So I don't know that we really talked about this, but I was on tour for 3 shows. We were on tour for 3 shows, and then we got sent home as soon as NCAA pulled their tournament, and Seattle was the first show of the tour to cancel. I went into the backstage and just said to everyone, like, okay, what's everyone thinking? Everyone's like, well, we're probably going home by the weekend. So we actually would be somewhere, I think, in the Midwest right now, Jake, if we weren't sitting at home right now. And like you, I can empathize. It's been busy. Tim, I know the same is true for you. You're doing a lot of cleanup for businesses. Tim does marketing, Jake, so he's doing a lot of cleanup for businesses that are like, well, we're still here, don't forget about us.
Actually busier than normal, oddly enough, but I guess it seems like it's that way for a lot of people. People kind of have to keep busy to stay sane when there's so much less social interaction, totally.
Or
physical interaction, I guess.
I would say, I would encourage the listeners to try new things and break the routine of what they've got going on, because it's like, man, pick up your drumsticks, if you haven't touched them for, a year or 2, or, if you like to journal, go back to journaling, or if you read, there's definitely things that we can do that can breathe excitement and joy, and fulfill us rather than, kind of in a sense being embraced by all of the chaos and the doubt and the anxiety and the stress. It's like, man, like there's a lot to be thankful for if we take a moment, look at it. And then if we're willing to kind of go outside of our boundaries, our comfortabilities, and try new things, like I'm doing this, like the first reaction videos. I mean, I'm trying that out. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm having a blast learning, and it's exciting, and I love putting it out, and it's a new thing in my life that I just said, well, I'll give it a shot. So I want to encourage the listeners to give things a shot, man, and try new things and experience newness. And because, just because we can't go somewhere doesn't mean that we have to stop living and just exist. We can live and this,
That's right. I mean, that's basically what this podcast was. I mean, it was an idea, and we were like, hey, let's try it out, see if it works. Matt and I were both, I think, under the assumption that we'd get through like 2 or 3 episodes and then call it quits. And sure enough, here we are a year later with an entire Patreon group, inner circle group, and, thousands of followers, and, it's crazy. It's crazy what can happen if you just pursue something and have fun with it. I mean, that's exactly what this is. Just, we're having fun. So, talking about real things. Yeah.
It's great.
So I guess I'll ask the obligatory question here. This is actually this is the first episode we've recorded since your album release. So congrats to you both on
thank you.
Guardians. From what I've seen, it's been a pretty incredible response. People are loving it. So good job on bringing out another one. But I guess for you, Jake, if you were to give a friend an ABR record to listen to out of your discography, what do you think your reasons for giving them Guardians would be?
Man, I think the lyrical content on this record is so... I think it just can resonate with everyone that's going through this. And I mean, that's the whole world, right? Like we're all dealing with this at the same time. And I think that there's just a lot of good encouragement, positivity, a lot of hope, a lot of faith and belief in our lyrical content on this record that I just think that it would be a great tool for people to have to kind of lean on in times of struggle. I mean, and it doesn't even matter what that struggle is. It's small or big, just in the circumstances of right now, this present day and all the chaos. I think that the lyrical content really breathes a lot of positivity and community and unity and, changing your perspective. And I think that Matt and Brent did a really phenomenal job of writing lyrics with great subject matter, but being broad enough for people to be able to grasp it for themselves. It's not so narrow that, it's or so detailed or fleshed out that you're like, oh, this is about this. It's really like, they keep it relatively vague, but you can tell that, oh, this song's about redemption, or this song's about, not judging others or accepting those for who they are. And that's all of really, honestly, what I think we need more of, because I think we hit this place in society where it's me, look at how great I am, look at how successful I am, I'm going to get there, I'm going to do this. And we forget the people beside us. And this whole record is about the people beside us. It's about, it's about, I mean, there's definitely a lot of faith-based aspects in it, undertones, but the general vibe of the record, I mean, it's titled Guardians, which means to be a protector, provider, or nurturer, or a helper for someone else, right? So it's very, sacrificial. It's very giving, humbling. And I feel like a lot of people, if they listen to this record, could self-reflect, see some of the things that maybe they would want to change to be not only a better person, but for themselves, but a better person for the people around them. And the only way we're going to survive this is if we help each other, I mean, right now the key is stay home, and it's like, well, okay, so what's the decision? Are you going to do something that you want to do, or are you going to do something that we need you to do so that everyone else can be safe, So think that, like I said, I think the lyrical content is really great. And then, man, it's such a heavy record. So if you're frustrated or you gotta, vent a little bit, man, you can headbang and pretty much knock your head straight off your neck within 3 songs deep of the of the album.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
I love it. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that was a really good answer. So Jake and I have been doing a lot of interviews, Tim, for the record, and they're coming in from all over the world, and we were talking a little bit off air about we feel like in the day and age in which we live, right, in the circumstance of the world right now, everything's virtual, and it feels like you have to give twice as much to get half as much back. So in other words, being next to someone in person is very life-giving, and it doesn't take all that much work to go out with somebody, but now it takes twice as much work to set up a Zoom call, and then it feels like you're only getting half as much back out of that relationship. Well, these interviews, as amazing as it is to have the coverage, it is sort of taxing. And as I'm thinking about Jake's answer, I'm like, man, maybe Jake should have just answered all of the questions for all of the interviews, because that was really solid.
Well, we have it recorded now, so you can listen and memorize it and use it for the next few interviews if you want.
Matt, why did your voice sort of sound like Jake's there? Okay, so Jake, as I think about the fact that you joined this band, and we've it's 14 years later, and I feel like we're actually pretty similar people in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But as I was thinking about doing this interview last week, I was like, man, Jake and I used to be really different. I mean, really different. And so different, in fact, that we wanted to write a book about how we were different and how we would have to sleep in the same bed at night at hotels, but you would sleep under the sheets and I would sleep on top of them. The primary reason being that you would shave your arms to show off your tattoos, and it was prickly and hurt, but really it's like half the time we couldn't stand each other, right? It's like I didn't want you touching me and you didn't want me touching you. And so I was thinking about this, sort of laughing to myself, but then I realized, wait, there's actually something very important that happened when you joined the band. And it's this, it's simple. I started the band thinking that I could do something for God. And when you joined the band, I realized I needed God to do something for me. And in fact, he'd already done it. In other words, I needed saving, and I needed to realize how judgmental I was. I was so judgmental. And there's sort of a famous story about this between you and myself, and I think it's appropriate that we talk about this because it's never been talked about in recorded fashion. So if you're willing to, I'm willing to. I think you know the story. You know the story.
Well, wait, are we talking about the cigarette one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know the story. You know the story.
So this was very early in Matt and I's marriage. I mean, it feels that way. It feels like, because you have to understand the dynamic here. I mean, it's like I lived and breathed with Matt I've done it for years. And I mean, when you're touring in a van and trailer, I mean, you're buddies with each other, whether you like it or not. And, it's like being married without the sex. There's all the dynamics of being closely together and understanding each other's, processes and reactions and attitudes and all that stuff. And so I'm starting to get to know Matt, and we're on a walk. I think it was in North Carolina, and we're walking down the street, and this kid comes up to me and Matt, and he says, "Hey man, would you guys mind if you go buy me a pack of smokes from this convenience store?" And I said, I don't know, man. And Matt turns and immediately says, "No way, man. We're Christians." And then just turns away and starts walking down the street. And I was blown away by that response. I was blown away by it because I'd never seen him ever act that way, and I'd never seen a Christian just completely demean someone's requests or actions. And so like it kind of shook me a little bit, and I thought to myself, man, who, like, it kind of made me think, like, who is Matt really? Or, you know, and I mean, my gosh, we've all been like this before. I mean, there's been plenty of days where I'm sure Matt's been like, I don't know if I know Jake or who is Jake, because I'm a rowdy little son of a gun, and I've made my fair share, but in this instance, it kind of threw me off, and I could just kind of see this like religiosity in Matt's heart at that time. Not excusing I've had my own religiosity, but in that time I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And I obviously, like, where I came from, those types of questions or that type of situation would come up, and no one would even blink an eye, But it was kind of funny to see, because it kind of gave me a little background as to, like, how Matt was raised, or how maybe the way he saw the world, and his, and Matt's, I mean, I will say that Matt is the most loving man I know, and he takes his faith in Jesus very seriously, which I think has really, really benefited him, and his understanding on how to love people. But, we are, for the Christians that are listening, I mean, the beauty of it is that, God's given us grace, and, it's a process of sanctification. I mean, we're never going to be exactly, like Jesus, right? But we can strive to be. And I think this was just, part of Matt's heart that I think God really wanted to work on, and this was just his part of his journey.
Yeah, I needed you to join the band. The reality is, I felt like you were the one that was lost, and I was the one that was found, and I could tell you all about Jesus. I was born and raised in this home and in the church, and this is perfect. I get to tell Jake all about Jesus. And we would have these night drives. And a band, at that point in your career, you spend a lot of time together because you have to spend a lot of time together. You're traveling in a van and trailer. You're doing a lot of night drives. We have a law in the band, or a rule in the band, that the passenger or the navigator, the person sitting shotgun, has to stay awake in order to ensure that the driver doesn't fall asleep. So Jake and I were partners. We had a lot of fun together, and we'd have a lot of conversations together. Back to my point, I realized that I was the one, like I said, that really needed saving. It was a moment like that. I mean, I think about it, I can just go to like 10 different times. I mean, Jake, in Europe, when you were going through it, and in Europe when I was going through it years later, and it's just, you're living life away from home, and you really don't have a lot at your fingertips. You don't have resources. You don't have relationships that you can really bank on. And what I saw in Jake was someone who was dependable and really understood the heart of God when he found it. And what I saw in myself was someone who knew about the heart of God, but really didn't love it or take it to heart and let it change me. And so I, in the end, found that, dude, I was the one that learned from you. So you saw something, I think, that was important to you, and I certainly found something important to me that I needed. And I think about years down the road, after the band is a memory. I don't know how many years that is. I hope it's a long time, but it will come eventually. I can't play double bass forever. And I think, man, we're going to look back on that, on those moments, and those are the things I will definitely remember. And those were actually very pivotal moments in my life and getting me to where I am. And so the relationship, the friendship that I have with you is so important to me, and it's so unique because I don't really have a whole lot of other friendships like that. And there are a few things in my life that I can look at and say, like, I think God was behind that. This is a situation I look at and say, I know God was behind that. And I'm really glad that he was. It's just incredible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it definitely is a unique relationship and was a pivotal relationship for us, especially, growing up. I mean, we were kids thrown in a van and trailer for 5 years. There was so much, there were so many different types of perspectives and understandings and things. But I mean, you were my pastor for 5 years. I mean, those, 4 a.m. drives in the van and trailer, going from show to show. I mean, we talked about the Holy Spirit, the Trinity. We talked about Christ and salvation and forgiveness. And I mean, that was kind of, the big thing for me is like when I showed up to try out for the band, I remember saying to you guys, yeah, I'll tour with you, but you gotta teach me more about Jesus. And Matt, you were really the one that stood up to the plate when I asked for that and taught me a lot about, my faith and understanding and, doctrine and theology and things like that. And so I think we just had, two different sides of something, and we came together on our faith and, kind of balanced each other out. So it was definitely like, a God moment. And I also contribute this to the longevity of the band. I think that, when you've got two guys in the band that are strong in faith and willing to listen to each other, willing to have deep conversations and can humble themselves to accept one another, I mean, that changes you. And just like in a marriage, I mean, if you're willing to work on it, if you're willing to listen, I learned more, honestly, I learned more just listening to different perspectives and people's views and their hearts than I do talking about my own. I mean, I get nothing out of other than my pride. I mean, I fill my pride gas tank up, but it's when I'm listening to someone that I don't maybe agree with or that I've never really lived through an experience that maybe they're sharing that I learn the most. And then I can bring it to the, to God's table and say, man, what do I do with this? I mean, it's such an amazing conversation. What do you want me to learn from this? And so, I mean, that's what you did, man. You're a teacher.
Yeah, that's well put. That's cool. Well, I love you, dude. I think this is the first interview we've ever done where one of us is conducting it. I've done an interview for HeartSupport. In fact, I didn't realize this was up there, but I did an interview on HeartSupport interviewed me in Portland, and it was actually a really tough time for me because HeartSupport asked me to do an interview on marriage, and I was like, things were rocky, with Megan and I, and I was just, I guess I was just like, well, I don't really want anyone to know that things are rocky, and I didn't really know how to talk about it. So I did this interview. Well, it's online, and I was like, oh man, I really don't want to watch this, but I kind of want to know how dumb I sounded, because obviously I'm trying to like hold it together, and I sound pretty dumb. I sound pretty dumb, but that would be the closest thing to what we're doing here, which is an organization that you have hosted an interview with me. But this is certainly the only time where it's not like you and I are being interviewed by someone at Grass Pop in Belgium, who who wants to talk about our favorite song on the new record,
Right. Yeah. This is definitely a lot different than that. But it's a good thing, man. And I love the fact, like, that you guys are doing this podcast, man. I mean, a lot of people, it's amazing to hear from a phenomenal drummer like yourself, and then to talk about faith and just try to encourage people, with their faith, because it's challenging, man. I mean, you have no idea what you're going to go through in the future. You have no idea what other people are dealing with, and so it's just nice to talk about something that's so precious and personal, and really like try to try to interact with somebody on a deeper level than just, yeah, I'm tired of playing whitewashed, you know?
Well, I think it came about because drums and faith are the only things we know how to talk about, actually. but yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, there's obviously, it doesn't even have to be said, but you guys obviously have chemistry. You've been in a band together for a long time. And I think it's actually the earliest in an episode that we've struck gold. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were some golden nuggets thrown out there. And I want to take a second while we're on it just to call out some Christians, because that's what we do on this podcast. There were some really good things that were just said. And I just want to reiterate how important the journey is, and how if we think we know where we're going, or if we think we know, or if we think that we have it right, there's a really good chance that we have it very, very wrong. And it's so important to live life trying to learn, listening to perspectives, and, taking everything you can from every single person you come in contact with. I mean, what you guys just talked about just reminded me of the Pharisees. Matt was a church kid. He grew up, I was exactly the same way. So I'm basically telling my story as well. But, grew up in a Christian family, read the Bible our whole lives, went to church our whole lives, thought we knew all the answers. And then come to find out we're just judgmental little pricks. And unfortunately, that's what we see a lot of in the church today. And it's not Christ-like. As well as we think we knew the Bible, as well as we thought we knew Jesus, when we actually took a second look at who he was and what he did, the people that he butted heads with the whole time, we've said this over and over and over again in this podcast, but the people he butted heads with were the Pharisees. Those were the people that were religious-minded and stuck up on the rules and thought that perfection was something that was achieved by their own strength. And here we have it that, I know Jake learned a lot from Matt, but Matt also learned a lot from Jake, in that, being a Christian isn't, I think Matt said it a great way. He was trying to make this band about God, when really it was God that was making the band anything, or Matt anything, or anyone. And that's just that. Those are some golden nuggets, I think, that might really hit home with a lot of people listening. It hits home with me for sure. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hard to talk about. You look at yourself 15 years ago and you think, man, how could I have said such a dumb thing? And then you realize, well, how could I be so dumb as to think I'm not saying that sort of stuff now that in 15 years ago, when I look back on it and say, man, how could I be so stuck up? And yet that's exactly how we'll be. And so we have to be constantly learning from how we're treating other people, because at the end of the day, is there anything that matters more? According to the Bible, there's only one thing, and it actually matters the same, and that's loving God. And so it's too often we're focusing on loving God, but you can't really do that unless you really love other people, including the kid that wants to smoke a cigarette. And we've talked about this ever since, Jake. It's the irony is this: I should have said, sure, bought him a pack, taken out 3. I should have given you 1, him 1, and myself 1, and we should have lit up and had a 6-minute or however long. I don't know how long it takes to smoke a cigarette, because I don't smoke cigarettes. But I should have smoked and coughed and struggled my way through it, because you know what? At least I know that kid's name. And we would have had a good conversation and walked away, and the story would be completely different. And in fact, that's exactly what the right thing would have been to do. And so you look back and you say, man, how could I have not done that? Well, yeah, we're doing the same thing today. Just we have to learn from from it. So it's really about having, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I'm doing a pretty good job with my life and I'm not sure I really need to learn all that much from this. Tim's advice is, hold on a second, take a serious look, because you probably have a Jake in your life who was raised in a home nothing like yours, and he can probably show you where you need to grow and change. And if you're not sure, ask around. Be like, how do I suck as a human being? People will tell you. I promise you.
I mean, I have my own little like religiosity story that I'd like to share, just because I feel like it's kind of on the subject matter. Like, there was a time in my life when I was, I think maybe 24 to 26, 27, and I just fell in love with theology. I fell in love with the study of God, right? And I was reading all these books. I ended up doing online courses, with seminary courses at Gordon Conwell. I was doing one of their professors is a good friend of mine, and the courses were great. I'm not bashing seminary or theology. I'm explaining to you where my heart went wrong. And so I was studying all of this, and I thought I knew everything. And I was listening to podcasts from pastors left and right, and I became very religious. And I ended up harming my family because I was so religious and judgmental and shameful that I was not only extremely internally judgmental towards myself and shameful, and I had no place for grace or mercy, or the fact that I wasn't Jesus, and I wasn't necessarily worshiping God. I was worshiping the idea of God, the understanding of God, the study of God, and finally I come across this book called Debate Calvinism, and it's a Calvinist and an Arminianist debating their theology. And I'm reading this book, and then God gives me a vision. He gives me a vision of a sandbox. And then he gives me a vision of these two little boys playing in the sandbox, building their own sandcastles. And they're telling each other whose sandcastle is better than the other, right? Than the other ones. And God says, this is what you're doing. You're literally bickering as a child with another child about whose sandcastle is better. And they're in a sandbox. And then my vision goes and gets broader, and there's all of this other stuff outside of the sandbox. All these other things in this other world. But these two little boys in the sandbox were just fixated on their castles and which one was better than the other. And I put that book down, and I never picked it back up, and I realized that I wasn't doing anything for my growth in my personal relationship with Jesus. I was, yes, I was understanding what knowledge mankind has understood, interpretations of the infallible truth, the Bible or whatever. And you can get all crazy with the verbiage and, high and mighty on that stuff. But really, in reality, I was shaming people. I was hurting my family. I was hurting myself. I didn't understand my identity as a son of the Most High, right? I was pointing the finger, and it was really very destructive in my relationships and my friends and my family. And so I had to go to I literally just had my mom and my sister come visit me before all of the chaos here with the pandemic, and I had to apologize to them and hear where they were coming from and how I had hurt them like deeply. And so, it's good to understand your theology and to have, an understanding of the scriptures and all of that. But at the same time, you just have to be aware of your actions. I mean, in James, we're talking about, your faith is in, your proof of your faith is through, your actions. And, my actions were nothing like, the gifts of the Spirit. I was just so out of tune with personal relationship with God. So I think that's one of the difficulties I think with having faith is because we strive so hard to to understand it completely, to have all the answers to all the questions, and for it to become tangible. But then we simply put the Holy Spirit and God in a box, and therefore it limits God being able to use us for His gospel and breathing love and, the gifts of the Spirit, and, stumps our process of sanctification, where we're not willing to grow because we think we've understood it and we get it. And that's harmful to us. And then therefore what happens? Then we do something really harmful like I did to my family, and then they say, well, if that's Jesus, we want nothing to do with him. So I'm not even the one being persecuted, right? I'm not the one that's distancing God's I am the reason why God's touch is being distanced from the people that were close to me, is because of my religiosity. And so I think that's just something that we as followers of Christ have to be concerned with, is that, it's good to be hungry, but keep yourself close to the Lord and prayer, and let the Spirit, guide you, and not just simply the understanding of man.
Jake, that was I've never heard it put so well about how closed-minded and how much we box in God and just this idea of faith. I didn't know that story. It's really powerful. But it just gave me a memory that I think I'm going to speak to people listening who might be looking for advice. And I know you would be a good person to give this advice. I didn't have this question phrased or written or anything. It just popped in my head, but I'll start with the story and then we'll end with the question. So a couple of years ago, I called you for advice, and I was having a hard time, and I didn't call anyone else. I called you. I called one person, and it was you. And you gave me an answer that was the opposite of the tonality of my question. In other words, my question sort of led you towards like, this would be easier. This would be ideal. And your answer was, no, you don't do that. You do this. This is the right thing to do. And I got off the phone. I'll never forget where I was. I'll never forget what I did next. I'll never forget the next couple of days, because what I did was I listened exactly to what you said. And it was very good advice. It was exactly 100% the right thing. And so for those that are listening to this, who either A, want to be that kind of friend who's the first person someone calls, or B, they're looking to find someone like that, can you talk to the importance of being the kind of friend that tells it like it is and stands up for what's best for someone, even if it's the hardest thing to tell them?
Yeah, I think, what I've learned over the years of just, watching people communicate and being in a lot of tough situations, what I realize is that if you want to be able to be there for someone in really the toughest times, you have to gain the authority, and it's something that they give you. It's a gift. It's not something that you can demand. It's not something that you can say, yeah, I've got the authority to speak into your life. It's something that they give you, and they give it to you because they trust you. So it deals with probably, Matt, the reason why you came to me is because you know my past. You know some of the things I've battled and gone through. You understand me. You know that I love you. You know that I too am vulnerable and willing to get my hands dirty alongside you. And you gave me that authority. I didn't have it. That was a gift that you gave me. And so I think that if you want to be a real true friend, you've got to be willing to be real and be honest and open up.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Yeah, it's just like people, I mean, even in this band, I mean, people come and they share things with me after the show that some people say, I've never told anyone this. It's like they've given me the authority by sharing. And then therefore I understand how fragile it is. I understand, thankfully, I mean, God uses all things good, right? So for those who follow him, it's like, man, I have a track record of just a lot of mess, and God's been able to show me how to use it for good. And so we're put in a place where we have an opportunity to empathize and not just sympathize. It's easy for a lot of people to have sympathy, but when you have empathy, when you can empathize, you've got something really precious there, because you've gone through something very similar. You've had a similar experience. You can understand the gravity of the pain or the struggle, right? And so therefore, like, God invites you when two come together, right? Like, and me personally, I don't believe that it's like, you got to be two Christians. Man, when two people who were created by God, who have spirits and souls that were created by the kingdom of heaven, when they come together and they can empathize and understand, that's an opportunity for not only for your spiritual growth and their spiritual growth, but for the Holy Spirit to breathe within the conversation and literally change the narrative. And so that's why, like this situation that you just gave, that example, I mean, we changed, the Holy Spirit, our conversation changed your narrative. You weren't going to do that before you called me. Then we had our conversation and you changed the path that you were going down. So that's the power, man, of when someone gives you the authority to speak in their lives. And I would go back to the foundational roots of that conversation need to be grace, mercy, understanding, no judgment. When Jesus accepted me, he didn't care the color of my skin. He didn't care who I was in love with. He didn't care what I believed in. He didn't care what I had done or what I was doing, right? Or what had been done to me. He loved me right there. And that's what I feel like. If someone's coming to you, no matter the circumstances, you may not condone their actions. You may think that they're not the victim, but perhaps they're the culprit. It doesn't matter. You have an opportunity to change the narrative with them and bring them closer to the Lord, or bring them closer to goodness or love, redemption, and healing. And when you do that, it really gives the opportunity for that person to interact with the creator of the universe. And I think that that's what we're talking about when God says to love others and love your Father, love God. Literally, we're doing both when we're in a room together like that.
Yeah, well, that's very sound, and I know it's sound advice because it's exactly right. It's exactly why I called you. Yeah. And it just speaks to the value that if you allow someone to speak into your life, you're giving them, like Jake just said, authority. I've never really thought of it that way, but it's true. And so if you're quick to give advice to someone, if they're open to you, just pause and think about the power that you have in their life. It's a bunch of words that are just falling out of your mouth. It's not very costly to you, but think of the magnitude of what it could do in that person's life that you're talking to. And in my case, look what it did. It was huge.
Right.
So,
right. And then for the other end of the question there, you asked, what if you're somebody that needs someone like that? I mean, I would say, really think about who that person is, right? Like, I'm not going to go to advice to a buddy. If let's say you're struggling in your marriage, you're not going to go to your best buddy who's never been married before, that would not be probably the best person for that type of advice. But what I will say is, if you can find that person that you trust, that you're willing to give that authority to, that gift, that precious gift, what I would say is when they respond to you and they give you advice, if you're a God man or a woman, take that advice and pray on it, because some of it is probably going to really be helpful, and some of it maybe you really don't need to listen to. There's plenty of pastors out there that give great interpretations, but at the same time, we need to be careful with that interpretation, because depending on where that person is from, they may be kind of, maybe something's wrong in their heart, right? Where they need to be adjusted, and they're kind of breathing that into their message. That happens too. I mean, so you just have to be careful, take the information, and then go pray on it. Bring it to the Lord and say, man, God, like this, my friend told me this and it's so helpful, but there's this other part that he said, like, should I hold on to this? Is this really where I'm at? And is that really going to be beneficial or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you have to really weigh every piece of advice that's given, and also know, be able to recognize wisdom, when it's hard, even when you might not 100% agree with it. But this actually brought up something in my mind. So, on this podcast, we've brought up HeartSupport a number of times. Actually, in just about every episode, I think.
I was going to say, it's pretty often.
Awesome. Very, very often we bring up HeartSupport just as a resource, as a place for people to go. Because it's helpful, and it's something good in the world that's happening, and so you built HeartSupport, and I actually had the pleasure of seeing HeartSupport from its humble beginnings, so to speak, thanks to being involved with Brick by Brick with Matt. But I mean, it's an incredible resource, and I know, some of our listeners don't even know what it is. So if you could speak a little bit on what HeartSupport is, maybe just briefly, what inspired you to start it, and then also just, what it's like, being a role model, with such a platform such as HeartSupport, and what it's like heading up such an organization like that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so HeartSupport is an online community for people to talk openly about spiritual issues, addiction, self-harm, depression, mental struggles. I mean, I'd like to think that there's people in the world that don't have problems, but I just haven't found one yet. So
it's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So I just started this online community basically because I was just tired of seeing, going to the merch table or the barricades after a show and talking to fans, and they just had these crushing stories about their lives. Again, giving me the authority to listen, right? Because some of these things I don't even have words for, and I was tired of crying. I was tired of hearing all of this, and then them saying how, our music, ABR's music, has been so helpful and encouraging, and then they just go home to the same situation, and I go to the next city, or state, and so we were on the Day to Remember tour. I think it was 2009 or 10 or 11, 10 maybe, and we're in Chicago, and I remember I stayed up till 4 a.m. I was just talking to God. I'm like, man, what can I do to give back? And the vision of HeartSupport came to my mind, and I'm writing everything down and all the ideas, and basically I started it with $1,500. I had my buddy make me a website. At that time, it was called Your Life Ministries, and that's why I have Your Life tattooed on my knuckles, because it was really the first time I felt like I heard from God, my purpose, like something that's really gonna make a change. And so, yeah, I just, built this online community, and now we have over 500,000 people a month interacting with our social media platforms, our forum page, which is the forum page is a place where you can go right now at HeartSupport.com, go to the support wall, and you can make a profile, or you can do it anonymously, and write out what you're going through, your experience right now, today. And others in the community are going to respond to it. They're going to share with you. They're going to tell you what they've done to help them. They might, refer you to, therapy, certain kind of therapy that worked for them, or a book, or, we do interviews with, we have over 100 interviews with musicians in our industry that kind of share their message of hope or their battles. So it's just a place to be, have real community. Again, the foundation of that, when I was in that night, when I was talking to God, like, what's it going to look like? He came up and told me, came up with the idea of, doesn't matter the color of your skin, who you're in love with, what you believe in, what you've done, or what's been done to you. So that's kind of like our thing at the community, is like, hey, we're just gonna love each other and help each other out. And I have 6 full-time employees, and it's just a really beautiful thing. And it's really cool because it's not the Jake Luhrs show. Like, people know that I created it, but what makes it grow so rapidly is just that it's the communities. It's theirs. Like, it's their home. It's their place. They're the ones that are coming there as victims and then becoming victors and pouring back into the community. So, and it's a nonprofit, so obviously we go off of donations, but like, people donate, we got people working at McDonald's that, don't have a lot of money, or, people who are, working whatever job and they've got a family to support, and they donate because they believe in the community and it's their community and they want to protect it and continue to grow it. And so it's become a very great thing where people can open up and share and find some sense of peace and understanding. And really, when you I have my own battles and things, and like, one of the greatest feelings is to just let it out. And that's really one of the first steps into a journey of healing for that particular issue, is to finally talk about it and get it out of your head. And then to hear someone else say, man, I'm really sorry that happened to you. That happened to me too. And, this is how I responded, and this is my story. And it's like, all of a sudden, you're not alone anymore. It's not, shaming you in your head. It's not telling you that that's who you are and that you're dirty and that you deserve this, or this is where you should live, or you can't be loved. It completely breaks those chains. And now you've got this opportunity to literally, once again, and I think that this is a God thing and community, and very based on, the commandments that Jesus calls us to be, but it gives you that opportunity to change the narrative in your life. And, we're not, my employees, we're all Christians, we're all, faith-based, but by any means, we're not there to, tell you how it is or what it is. I just got done telling you, I'm not the man to tell you how it is. 'Cause I'm that religious, kind of stuff will hurt you, but it's more of like, what did Jesus do for us? He sacrificed, he loved the unlovable. He healed the broken. He, took away sickness and chose to, surround himself with people that looked nothing like him or anything that, society was willing to say was good. And and those were his people. Those were his disciples. Those were his followers. And so, I just think it's a beautiful, kind of almost a biblical story in the sense, but it's just an opportunity for people to make an impact on others and for others to be impacted for good,
Okay, so in this time
incredible.
of COVID-19, I can't think of a better resource than HeartSupport. If you've never heard of HeartSupport, or if you're interested in checking it out, please go to heartsupport.com or follow them on Instagram at HeartSupport. If you're looking for that friend, that we were talking about earlier, if you're looking for somebody to give you advice or just to be there for you, especially in this time of isolation, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. Yeah. And before these churches were doing live streams and figuring out how to go virtual, HeartSupport's been doing this, man. Churches should be consulting HeartSupport on how to actually be a church and be almost solely online, and do it effectively, professionally. So if you're looking for someone like that, or if you're looking to give, HeartSupport is a worthwhile cause who's doing a lot of good. So thank you so much, Jake, for being on the show. It's been a blast. We have a group of really helpful friends and donors. We call them the Inner Circle, and they're helping to just help us make this happen just a little bit. Like, hey, we need a microphone. Okay, thanks for the $200, or hey, we're going to do this drumming event to help this little girl out with cancer. And so we like to give back. So a couple of them have questions, and if you could just rapid fire them off, that'd be sick.
Yeah, let's go, man. And by the way, if this podcast, if people choose to listen to it and they like it, we should do another one. I mean, who knows how long this, quarantine thing's going to last. And I love what you guys are doing, and I'd love to be back at some point in the future.
Awesome. We'd love to have you. I'm sure the response to this will be, probably
one of the best yet.
This is just such a meaningful conversation to me, and typically that's the litmus test. If I feel like I've gotten something out of it, I know other people will. So, like I said, thank you I know we've been doing a lot of press, so thanks for doing yet another one. I hope that this is a little bit different than the usual.
Yeah. I'll make time for this one.
And you took a lot of time out. I was expecting 30 minutes, and it's been double that. So I appreciate it. It's been great.
No problem.
So I'll rapid fire these questions off to you from the Inner Circle group, and then we'll we'll let you go. So our first one is from Logan Kerr. He asks, "What's your favorite song lyrically, and what's your favorite song instrumentally on Guardians, and why?"
Oh boy. My favorite song lyrically on Guardians is probably Lighthouse. That song just means a lot to me. It's very emotional. I really felt that song, and I think that you can hear that in the vocals a lot. And then
you killed that song. Absolutely killed it.
Yeah, thank you. And then probably musically, it would be a tie between Three Fountains. I really love just the structure of that song. I think it flows really well. I think it embodies a lot of different dynamics of the band. It really gives the time for the instrumentation to shine. And, in the middle of the song, really love the breakdown. That's about, a third in. And then I love Bloodletter, simply because it's just something we've never really tapped into, but I've always had kind of in the band. And it's just such an aggressive, heavy song. I think it speaks a lot just in the intensity and aggression.
That's awesome. Great answers. And then Nick Abbott asks, this isn't music or God related, but he wants to know what brought you to airsofting and what gear you have.
That's a great question. I love Nick.
I don't know that we could rapid fire the gear, but my primary rifle is a Vega Force Company 416A5. It's basically like a kind of like a AR-15 assault rifle type. I really love playing as a medic. I enjoy running out there and trying to revive my teammates. I love doing team lead stuff. It's just there's a lot of strategy involved, and there's a lot of community involved. And I think that initially, I was past 4 years of my life, I've really invited God to help me overcome fear and again, get out of my comfortability. So I did a lot of crazy stuff. I started playing hockey, which is a very physical sport. I never played hockey in my life. I picked up airsoft. That's not fun getting shot by BBs, but it's a great time. And then I chose to get myself a sports bike that is really built for the track, but I ride it around on the streets. And so I was really trying to like broaden my horizons and live my life and do things that, had I not tried them, I would have never done them because of my fear of them or my anxiety. But if I could be honest, all of those things have community around them. You see riders, they wave to each other, they talk about their bikes, they go ride together. Hockey, the best community I've had in my life outside of, the band and my friends is the locker room and airsoft. These guys, we wake up at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. We go out to the field. We're out there till like 3 or 4. There's events where you go out for 40 hours. You don't even go back to your truck or your car. You camp out there. You're getting shot at, in the middle of the night, and you're hiking around. And so there's a brotherhood there. A lot of ex-military play airsoft as well, because it's kind of a good therapeutic thing for them, and it kind of helps them in either like a life transitioning situation, or maybe they miss it. Maybe they miss the camaraderie and the brotherhood. And so there's a lot of community surrounded by all of those things that I really enjoy. And I think that honestly, it was God just saying, hey, let's overcome your fear and bring you some family along the ride.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you answered a couple of these questions just with that answer. Cody Hartman asked what got you into writing.
I can tell that you like airsoft right now. That was such a well-rounded answer. I feel like we need to get that company on for a sponsorship just for this episode.
Yeah, can I play airsoft now? That's fun.
You should, when you release this podcast, you should say brought to you by Vega Force Company. That would be hilarious.
We totally will.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll throw out a few more questions and then we'll wrap it. But Greg Rennick wanted to know what the last thing you feel right before the first song starts live.
Ooh. Greg.
I think I feel excited. There's like this anxious excitement because it's like I'm about to go, do one of the most emotional, energetic, literally it's crazy how God speaks to me on stage and how even my own lyrics that I'm screaming speak to me in ways that I'm, that maybe I dealt with something earlier in that day. And man, I'm up there and I'm crying or I'm screaming and I'm, there's so much emotion going on. So it's like, I get anxious because I know that something special is going to happen, with me, for me, not just for the crowd. And then, obviously the other side of that is that it's my job and I want to do well. And, I'm a very performance-based person. So I want to perform to the highest that I can. And so I take it, I get a little anxious cause I'm like, okay, man, you go out there and, blow them out of the water and cause that's your job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yep. That's a great answer.
Great. That is good. I'm going to keep it going as much as I want to go deeper into that. Brantley Weatherford asked if you've been working on any books since Mountains, and Joel Foster also asked, he said he got himself a copy of Mountains and wanted to know if there's any advice on how the best way to read or approach it would be.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, first, thanks for picking up a copy. I'll answer the first question. There have been thoughts of writing another book, but just due to everything else that's going on in my life, I kind of had to put that a little bit on the back burner. And
nice,
so,
Jake.
But I kind of dabble with that a little bit here and there. But the best way to approach Mountains is, you got to first off, you got to put your religiosity aside. Anything, because there's some harsh language. There's definitely some very raw moments, and honest. I tried to be as transparent as I could, because I want you to feel like you're having a conversation with me, and I'm just a storyteller, and I'm a buddy of yours, right? But there's the questions at the end of every devotion, and those questions are there with good intent, which is to have the reader journal and answer some of those questions. Some of the ways that God can engage us, or just even, for people who aren't of faith, like for you to just self-reflect and hear from your own heart, is to respond to these questions and dig a little deeper, and then to see them on paper is really, really helpful. And you have no idea where that's going to lead you, because you might end up, responding to one of those questions, go, man, this is really a wound in my heart that I've been carrying on for years. Like I need to get rid of this. I need to be healed of this. And or maybe, man, like I never thought I really had that kind of issue going on in my life, but this seems to resonate with me. So really what those questions are there for is for you to recognize maybe a mountain in your own life that you need to climb and overcome.
That's great. That's awesome. So I've got one more that I'll squeeze in. There's a few other questions that are good, but we'll wrap it up here. Jeffrey Dean asked, he wants to know how you got so into hockey.
Oh man.
Dude, watching Jake play hockey is just freaking awesome. Like, Jake, can I just say the way you raise your one leg as you're skating? I feel like I'm looking at an NHL player skating. To have like moments, I'm like, wait, is that Jake or is that? Wait, yeah, that's Jake. Okay, he just fell, but then
is
you got
back. Is
that
Emilio Estevez on Mighty Ducks?
Right. Yeah. You didn't finish the story, Matt. I lift that one leg up and I skate about 3 feet and I fall on my ass.
Well, no, I did say that. I said, wait, is that NHL? Wait, okay, it's Jake. He just fell, but then he gets back up, and it's incredible, man. And you got my brother Jesse into it, and it's just a lifestyle.
Shot. It is.
I love hockey. I played growing up too. It's amazing. It's great.
It really is, man. And then you watch, then you watch the NHLers, man. You go, oh my gosh, like how the heck does he even skate that fast?
Yeah.
But that was one of the first things that I picked up when I was, going through this process of, overcoming fears and trying to live my life. And so, my buddy Isaac, who I consider a brother of mine, when I was younger, kind of taught me about, hockey and the rules and all that kind of stuff. And he was a diehard, and still is a diehard Boston Bruins fan. And so he's like, you got to be a Bruins fan. I was like, okay. So, kind of got into it that way. And then my buddy Ian plays at, beer league hockey, a rec league. Beer league hockey means it's just a hockey rec league for other people who don't play professionally or for like a college or school. It's just for us to get together and have fun. He was playing, and I was like, I remember the day. It was a Thursday, and I'm at his house late night, and we're talking. I'm like, man, it's so cool you play hockey. He's like, well, you're home for 2 months. Like, why don't you sign up? And I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to skate. He's like, just go out there, man. I said, well, when do I sign up? He goes, this Sunday. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ian, like, how am I supposed to do that? So the next day, Friday, I go to Play It Again Sports, and I tell the guys, I say, look, I need all the hockey gear that I need to play hockey. Just put it in a bag. I'll throw you down the plastic and get out of here. So I get all my gear on Friday. Then Saturday, an ice rink had like a 1 hour skate. So I skated, or 2 hours. I skated one way, clockwise for an hour, and then I stopped, and then I skated counterclockwise for an hour, and that was it. And then Sunday, I show up with my gear, I get out there, and the rest is history, man. And I love the sport. I love the community. I've made a lot of great friendships through it, and it's just it's great cardio too if you're trying to get some cardio in your life,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
That's awesome.
Okay, so thank you, Jake, so much for coming on the show. This was an incredibly meaningful conversation that I will always remember. If you enjoyed this, please give us a review. It does actually help us and helps get the word out about us. Check out @HeartSupport on Instagram and HeartSupport.com. Such a great resource, and you just heard from Jake, who is behind it. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake, for joining us. We had a blast.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Talk soon.
And check out his review videos or his reaction videos. Don't want to miss out on those.
Yeah, you need to see those, man. They're incredible. All right, thanks, Jake. Love you, brother.
Love you too, bro. Take care,
dude.
boys.
See ya.
See ya.
Okay, so we hope you guys enjoyed that. We had such a good time with Jake, and we're very appreciative of him coming on our show and spending so much time with us and being so transparent with us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. I had a great time and really benefited from that conversation. Things that I have been chewing on. We recorded the interview, a couple weeks ago, but I've been chewing on some of the meat of this conversation since then. So if that doesn't speak to the value, I don't know what does. It's not often that you have conversations like that where you're still thinking about it a couple weeks later.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny, dude?
Special.
When we talked about getting Jake on here, I think you remember it was probably like, my response was probably like, well, I think so. He's really busy. But in the back of my head, I was thinking, dude, he loves drummers. And of course he loves God, but he loves drummers. Yeah. So I know he's going to do this. So as soon as I asked him to do it, he was like, yeah, man, that would be really like, you guys want me to have, wait, you want, okay, yeah, for sure, man. I'm on. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first signed to Truth Drums, they would send me like a shirt or a hat or something. And I remember him one time, he's like, dude, think maybe I can get one of those Truth Drum shirts? I was like, yeah. So then I talked to Tim, who was my rep, about it. He's like, dude, of course. Like, your singer wants one? He's like, yeah. And he'll probably wear it on stage tonight in Portland. So like, he got the shirt. I think he wore it like most of the shows on the tour,
Yeah.
Secretly, I think he always wanted to be a drummer. So
yeah, that's funny. Well, he does. He kind of got to some of those the cymbal mutes during the shows, right? He gets into it, right?
Yeah, I love that. That's funny. You'll be like doing all this rehearsing for a tour and have everything tight, and your family, your friends come to see you, and they talk about nothing that you played. They only talk about the fact that Jake came back and was so tight with his cymbal mutes. I'm like, good job, Jake. Nice work. That's the one thing people care about.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing that a lot of people probably don't realize, and I mean, all the people listening to this, if you're a drummer, you probably realize it, but there's a lot of rhythm involved with being a vocalist. Yeah. Especially with your style. I mean, Jake has to know all of those time signatures in order to scream over them the right way.
Right.
Yeah. He can memorize a song, sure, but like, there's a lot more to it. And I've always had issues backing up singers who didn't have like this internal rhythm, So Jake has that rhythm, which is probably why he appreciates drums, because he understands it.
That's true. That's a great point. He's always been good with it. There's the first time that he came to rehearse, though, he rehearsed for a song called Your Little Suburbia's in Ruins, and it's a really tough beginning. It's like, it's in some eighth note signature, I think, whatever, it doesn't matter, 7, 8 or something. But he really struggled with it. And I know that it was like deeply personal to him because, like you said, he's really good with this stuff. But he really did struggle with that part. And it's a part that like JB will bring up, be like, dude, remember when you like couldn't scream the beginning of that? And Jake will be like, dude, I still can't. Are you kidding?
That's funny.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Jake, for coming on the show. It was a blast.
Yeah, thanks,
and
Jake.
We really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess before we wrap, I want to shout out a few new Patreon members, members of our inner circle, which, by the way, I can't say enough how much I love this community group. It is like really a flourishing community group. Like, you guys are incredible, the conversations that are being had, and I think we said it on a couple of the minisodes or the pre-roll or something, but like we have one person on there, her name's Chelsea, and she's been putting together prompts every day for like, your favorite song for this or that, and it's been incredible.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun.
It's
really good getting to know you all too.
I just sent her I think she won the hat, the Augustman's Red hat.
Yes, yeah.
I just sent that out a couple days ago. So Chelsea, you'll be getting that soon.
Nice.
And
nice.
Nick, you'll be getting your hoodie, and Logan, I think, won the splash symbol. So it's all in the mail.
Yeah.
Actually, by the time you hear this,
you'll
be wearing it.
Yeah.
Except Logan, you won't be wearing your splash.
Yeah.
You'll be hitting it.
I mean, you can if you want to. It might be a little weird, but but yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more, I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of this episode, but it's patreon.com/holyghostnotes. We've got a bunch of cool incentives in each tier, and really what you're doing is supporting this podcast, helping us grow and do new things. And the next big thing is just having Adam on here giving lessons to people. So that's really exciting.
Absolutely.
But let's give some shout outs. So big shout out to Jim Heron, James Rodriguez, and Ryan Holmes. Thank you guys for your support. Welcome to the inner circle, and really looking forward to getting to know you guys more. We had a couple awesome Zoom calls with you guys this month, and it's just been super cool getting to know you and just having laid back conversations, and no pressure, but at the same time it's seeing the conversations that we're having on these episodes continued in a way, which is more than I ever dreamed when we set out to do this.
Absolutely.
This podcast. So thank you guys.
Oh, should we mention too some of the upcoming topics we're going to be hitting on? We've had a lot of guest appearances, but we are going to get back to the drawing board as far as what we started off doing. So some of the faith topics you were throwing around.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find them.
I can remember some offhand. We're going to be talking about porn. The addiction,
That's a big one.
the objectification as a result of it, the effects of it, just in general, the struggle, just the overall struggle, and what it will do to your life and in your relationships. We're also going to be hitting on, as far as drumming, we were going to hit on polyrhythms, I believe, and also studio setup.
Yeah, phrasing, and the studio setup, miking up drums, and building a studio. Mine's built a little bit more for sound dampening, whereas Matt's is built a little bit more for the look of it.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
So there's well, yours looks way cooler than mine, so
no,
but
you can't smooth that over, dude. Seriously,
this is just foam all over the wall. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's real foamy. Mine's real barn
yeah, it's
boardy.
real foamy. I like it though. I like that shiplap look.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's all different reasons why you would be building a studio. In my case, it's because I have neighbors and I don't want to disturb them, and I also want to, do session work from my home. And Matt's recording lesson videos and drum playthroughs, and he's doing a lot of video content. And so, with that comes different types of mics, different types of interfaces, different type of room setup. So at some point we'll hit on that. Yeah, I had a couple other faith topics. I want to go over identity at some point. I feel like that's a really big thing in this world right now. And then another one that I don't know if I've told you, Matt, but the topic of what are you missing out on, specifically hitting on Mary and Martha when Jesus comes to visit them. And Martha is too busy preparing the meal and stuff to actually sit there, even though it's not a bad thing that she's doing. She's missing out on this time and this, So anyway, we've got some good stuff for you. We've been brainstorming and Matt and I have had some separate conversations about what we'd like to talk about with you guys. So good stuff coming.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't followed us on Instagram or Facebook, definitely do that so you can stay in the loop. We're pretty much just posting stuff on there. We also now have a YouTube channel where we'll be posting full videos of these episodes. So if you want to tune in and see firsthand the strange faces that we make while we're talking into microphones, you can go check that out. YouTube. I don't actually have a URL for that, but I'm sure you can find it by searching Holy Ghost Notes. So other than that, use the hashtag Holy Ghost Notes on your drum videos. We post grooves every week, or repost grooves. You guys have had some awesome stuff. I have a whole library of videos saved on my phone right now that I'll be posting over the next couple months. So use that hashtag. And what else do I normally say? Email us, Matt and Tim at theholyghostnotes.com, or shoot us a DM on Instagram.
We'd love to hear what you have to say about this episode. Let us know. And also send Jake feedback as well. He'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or just thoughts about his episode, hit him up.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you all for listening. It was our pleasure, as per usual. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Peace.